This is the XR's only Smog Delete kit for all years of the Honda XR650L. This is currently $26.95 on the XR's only website. I'll put a link down in the description. The kit comes sealed together here. You have the different hose caps, the 2 block-off plates, and a set of instructions. Alright, so you have the 2 block-off plates, a couple of the larger hose plugs, and 3 smaller vacuum hose size caps. Comes with a set of instructions and diagram there for installation. After installing the kit, you should get less popping out of the exhaust during deceleration. You may get a little bit better throttle response. It's going to look cleaner because you don't have this junk sitting on the side of the motor, and you're going to get a little bit of weight reduction. We're going to weigh the parts included in the kit. The total weight of the parts supplied in the kit is just about 1 ounce, so we will weigh the Smog equipment that comes off the bike in the end and figure out how much of a weight reduction we have. The tools I used are a 1/4 inch ratchet, 12mm socket, 10mm socket, 8mm socket, an extension, 12mm wrench, a 5mm hex bit, and a pair of needle nose pliers. So here's the left side of the engine as it comes stock, and the parts we're going to be removing are the charcoal canister, the smog pump, and this diaphragm valve up here. And these hoses are all coming with it. I'm going to start by removing the charcoal canister from the bracket by removing these 2 10mm bolts. And I'm just going to leave that to the side for now. Now I'm going to remove the bracket from the frame with these 2 12mm bolts here. These bolts also secure the front motor mount, so I'm going to make sure they get reinstalled nice and snug. So once you have the canister loose, these 2 hoses on the bottom are already going to be loose. This one came off this bracket here. This one came down from the bracket on the bottom of the frame. This smaller hose goes up to the top of the gas cap. That's your gas cap vent. And this hose here is going to the diaphragm, so we can go ahead and disconnect these 2 hoses, and we're going to get the charcoal canister out of the way. So now we're going to move to the front of the bike and start removing the hose to the smog pump with our 5mm hex bit. There's one on the right side here which I'm going to remove as well, and these are where our 2 plates are going to be bolted on. Okay, now that we have the 4 bolts in the front taken out, we're going to take these 2 10mm nuts off, and the smog pump's going to be removed from the side of the engine. Now I'm going to remove these 2 10mm bolts, holding the bracket to the side of the engine. Now that our smog pump's loose, we're going to remove the side cover here so we can get a closer look at the airbox. We're going to remove this hose here from our airbox, and that's where one of our plugs are going to go. And now that hose is out of there, the larger of our 2 aluminum plugs is going to go in there. Alright, now if we follow this smaller hose coming off of the back of the smog pump, it loops around to a 3-way T above the carburetor right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach it from the T, and we're going to install one of those small plugs over that end of the T there. So there's that 3-way T with the hose removed and the rubber cap placed on it. I was able to just reach in there with my fingers and pull the hose off, place the cap on, and that's located behind the fuel petcock and right above the carburetor. So now with that hose off, our smog pump is completely removed. So we have the evaporator canister, the smog pump, both brackets removed. What we're going to do next is install the block-off plates on the front of the engine. I know some people use silicone RTV sealant. The instructions say not to use sealant. It says that this is going to end up in the engine. As you can see, this did not come with any sealant from factory, so I'm going to be replacing this with no sealant. You want to make sure you're installing the plates on a clean surface, so wipe that clean. You want to make sure that these plates go in the same direction so you can take them and match them to the pipe. Make sure they're going on the right way. And we're going to use the same 5mm bolts to install these. And make sure they're snug, but don't over tighten them. And we're going to do the same for the other side. Alright, I actually went back and put a little bit of blue Loctite on the bolts so they don't end up vibrating their way out. And now that we have our plates installed, we're going to go over and remove that diaphragm valve. Alright, so now we're removing the diaphragm valve, which is located directly under the oil separator here. And to do that, we're just going to lift the rubber mount off of the frame. There's a small hose on the top, which actually just came disconnected. This smaller hose here goes to a nipple on the bottom of the carburetor down there, which is where one of our rubber caps is going to go. And the larger hose on the bottom narrows down to a smaller size hose and goes into the top of the carburetor. And we're going to put our second, or third actually, rubber cap on there. Alright, so I took off the gas tank so we could get a better look, and then what you can see here is that three-way valve that we put a rubber cap on, and then the port on the top of the carburetor where we're going to cap off that is the hose that came from the valve. So this is where the hose that came out of the bottom of the diaphragm went, on the right side of the carburetor on the bottom, and this is where our last cap is going to go. Now that we have our carburetor capped off, we're pretty much done. I'm going to take an 8mm and remove this little wire holder that we don't need anymore. This hose here goes up to the fuel cap. I'm just going to reroute that so that I still have a working vent there. You can get a little vent or whatever you want for your cap if you want to replace that. The other plug here that came with the kit, this is if you want to remove the oil separator, which I'm going to leave. There's no real performance reason to remove that. And if you do remove it, you're going to have the vent from the transmission going straight to the airbox, and you're going to get a lot of extra oil in your airbox. So that's going to stay. This plug is going to be unused. That about does it. So there you go with the smog elimination kit, and we're going to weigh up these parts and see exactly how much of a weight reduction we got. So the total weight of the parts removed is 3 pounds 13 ounces. So that's about 3 pounds 12 ounces removed from the bike after installing the kit. So what I do with the hose coming up from the evaporative canister to the fuel cap is I just cut it a little bit shorter, tucked it in the handlebars there, and down right in here. After installing the kit, I did notice a reduction in the popping from deceleration, and it seems to run a little bit smoother.